Hi everyone, and welcome back to Ascend's Friday Forum. If this is your first time tuning in, these webinars cover a range of topics from the most commonly asked support questions to new features and handy tips and tricks to help you along your journey with Ascend. If you have any queries at all and you're not able to find your answer on the Ascend Help Center, then please send us through an email at ascend@softwareofexcellence.com and our support team will get back to you as soon as possible. So today we'll be taking a look at end of day reporting. It's important that at the end of the day you're running the right reports within your practice for you to successfully reconcile your transactions for the day and ensure your cashing up and banking is correct. The two recommended reports for this are the deposit slip report along with the day sheet report. So we're going to go ahead and take a dive into both of these, outlining the benefits along with any limitations they may have. But after that, we're going to jump into Power Reporting, where I'll walk you through step by step how to create the perfect end of day report for your practice. So jumping into Ascend, we'll just start by heading over to the deposit slip report to begin with. So just going to the home drop-down menu, and over on the right-hand side, we're just going to click into the deposit slip report here. Now, you've likely seen this before, but this particular report allows you to select which payment types it is that you'd like to run it for. I'm going to actually go ahead and select all payment types. And then, of course, you can also select the date range that you're looking for as well. In my particular case, I'm going to leave the date as is, as today's date. Typically, this is the situation that you'll find is you'll be running it for today at the end of the day. However, if required, you can select a larger date range here. Once you're happy with that, we just want to go ahead and select preview, and that's going to go ahead and bring up the report for us. I've got a test database here, so there's not too many payments, but if we scroll down a little bit, we will in fact see that there has been an e-claim payment for one health fund for the amount of $50, and we'll also find that there is the FPOS payment here as well. Now, for this particular report, when you are viewing the e-claim payments, it is going to list out the health funds that the e-claim payment was related to as well, which can be very useful information. So that's handy to keep in mind. Typically, at the end of the day, what you will then go ahead and do is actually hit print. That's going to bring up a PDF file for us that's going to outline the information that we just took a look at. And again, if we scroll down to the bottom, we'll also find that it's going to allow you to enter in some details for your bank account and who it was paid in by. So one particular limitation of this particular report is the fact that when it comes to FPOS payments, if you were to have completed a refund within the date range that you've selected, it's not going to be reflected within the deposit slip report. Now, that is different from the day sheet report, which does reflect that, and I will show you that in just a moment. But just important to keep that in mind. If you have any refunds completed for the day, this FPOS payment category is not going to reflect that. It's just going to show the initial payment that was entered. So now I'm going to head over to the day sheet report instead. Often these two reports are handy to run in conjunction with each other, but I'll just go through what information this particular one displays. So right off the bat, you'll see that you will have a location filter. This is going to be specific to the locations that you personally have access to based on your user roles. So I only have access to the Blackburn location, so that's why I'm only able to select this Blackburn location here. Again, you are able to choose the date range, and I will leave this as the 13th of September. I'm not going to change that, but if you were required to, you could, of course, include a larger date range as required. The next thing you will see that's important to note is the report type. It defaults to all, but you can set it to payments only or adjustments only if you are looking for something specific. When running it at the end of the day, however, it's typically quite important to capture everything that has been completed for the day, so oftentimes all will be what you'll want to run this report by. You then also do have the option to select the providers that you want to run this for. In my situation, I'm going to leave this as the default of all providers, but if you were interested in just looking at it for one particular provider, you can of course go ahead and start typing that, and it's going to allow you to select an individual provider. Once you're happy with that, you just want to go ahead and click search, and It's just prompting you, are you sure you want to generate this? And I'm going to click continue. So once this has loaded, you'll see that it's going to show a few different pieces of information. So the first thing it's going to show is the location details for your current location. The first thing that you'll notice is in the first section under location details, it's going to outline each individual transaction that was completed for the date range that you have selected. So as you can see here, it looks like there are 2 item codes that have been entered that has come to a total of $80 for this patient. There has then been an e-claim payment that was completed to the amount of $50. There was then also an FPOS payment of $30, but then there was also an FPOS refund of $30. So you can see that that has been refunded here. Now, that is an important distinction to make because this is not something that gets displayed on the deposit slip report, where it does display on the day sheet report. So that is one area where the day sheet report is quite useful to run, as it will display those FPOS refunds. Scrolling down a little bit, we will then see that there's the location totals. Now, this differs to the location details because it doesn't separate it out per transaction. Instead, what it does is it rolls up each transaction type and then gives you the totals for that particular transaction type. So how many charge adjustments have been completed for that date range, how many charges billed to third party, for that date range, etc. And then taking another look down, you will then also see that it's going to provide a roll up of each transaction type for each provider as well. So this can be very useful if you want to look at the totals per provider as well as for the location. But you can also go ahead and collapse the totals as well. So if you just wanted to go ahead and take a look at one particular provider without having to scroll all that way, just by hitting the collapse all button, you can do that. So those are the 2 reports that you have likely run in the past and are typically the 2 that we'll recommend to run at the end of the day for your reconciliation. However, you can create some really fantastic end of day power reports as well, which I'm going to walk you through an example of one now. And this is something that you can tweak a little bit to suit your own practice needs as required, but I'll show you how you can do this in the power reporting area. So I'm just going to pop over to there now from the home menu. So once you're in the power reports, you just want to head over to the financial area, and there's 2 main ways to build power reports. The first way is you can go in and use one of these blank report builders and sort of start the report from scratch, or alternatively, you can go in and take a current power report and then tweak it and save it as a new report. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the second option because I find that it's nice to have a starting point when you are creating a power report. So as an example, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm actually going to start off with the transaction detail report. If you'd like to follow along, I'd recommend choosing that one as well. So now that this has loaded up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select each of the filter options so I can view everything. So I'm going to click on this box here, which is going to allow us to view all the fields that we can select from. I'm then also going to select this middle field, which is going to allow us to rearrange the fields as required. And if it's not already selected, you do also want to make sure this filtered box is selected. So as we're looking for an end of day power report, what we really want in the report is we want to be able to view each transaction type along with each patient as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and remove these 2 measures. So you can see that we have charges and credits here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the little blue arrow, and then right down the bottom of the list, you'll see that there's the option to remove from report. So that's what I'm going to select here for both of those. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the procedure treatment area along with the description and code. Of course, this can be absolutely up to your discretion. If you find that that is useful information, you are very welcome to leave that within here. But for our purposes today, I'm going to remove those 3 as well. So just doing the same process, clicking the drop down arrow and then choosing remove from report. The next thing that I'm actually going to remove is the category and the date, and I'll show you why in just a moment, but I'm just going to begin by clicking those and removing those as we did with the other information. As you can see, our report's looking very, very small at the moment, but we're going to add a few new filters in, so that's not a problem. So the next thing that I'm actually going to add in is the date. And the reason why I removed the date out, even though we already had it, is because there's a few interesting things that I'd like to note when it comes to using dates within the power reporting. So if you take a look down the left-hand side where you can select all the filters, you'll find that there are multiple dates. So there's the applied date, created date, first visit date. If you scroll down it even further, there's even going to be service date, transaction date, those sort of things. So there are quite a lot of dates to choose from. Now, there are three main dates that you would want to use most frequently when it comes to power reporting, and those are the applied date, the created date, and the transaction date. Now, each of those do differ a little bit. So, when it comes to the created date, that particular date is going to be the date that a payment or transaction or procedure was physically entered into Ascend. So if we go ahead and enter in a payment today, the created date was on the 13th of September because that's when it was entered into Ascend. Now, when it comes to the transaction date, this differs a little bit because the transaction date is going to take into account what date is physically entered in on the ledger. So that also means if anything has been backdated at all. So if we entered something in today on the 13th of September, but then if it was backdated to yesterday's date, the 12th of September, the 12th of September is going to be that transaction date. The next thing to take into account is the applied date. So on the ledger, if we were to backdate that payment on the 12th of September, but then it wasn't applied to a procedure until today, then the applied date is going to be the 13th of September. So it's just useful keeping in mind that there is a distinction. Sometimes what I find is helpful is to actually include all three of those dates in power reports so you can actually see if there's any discrepancies or if anyone may have been backdating things. But as a general rule, the transaction date is going to be sufficient when running power reports. You will also find within each transaction date that there is three different dates that you can select from, and these are just going to be different formats. So you're welcome to take a look at each of those to see which format you'd like. Typically, the ISO format works perfectly and is the one that most people select. So I'm going to go ahead and add that date in now. To add a date, as I just did, all you need to do is double click on it, or alternatively, you can actually click and drag it into where you'd like it to sit. So if you want it to be in the rows or in the columns, you can do it that way as well. Now that we have added that in, we just now need to add in another field that's going to allow us to separate out the different payment types that we may have received. Now, the particular field that allows us to do that within the Ascend is one called a subcategory. So I'm just going to search for that, and you can see that that's sitting here. So what I'm going to do is just double click on that, and that's going to add into the rows area for us. Now that we have done that, there is another few fields that we'll want to enter, and that is under the measures area. For today's purposes, what we're going to do is we're just going to use the amount. So again, just going to double click on that. And as this is a measure, it's just going to add into the measures area for me. Now there's a few final things that we need to do before this report's going to start showing us useful data. So the first of which is the fact that it's currently filtered to include a date. Now I don't want to include for tomorrow, so what I'm actually going to do is click the little X here to remove that filter. The next thing that I'm actually going to do is filter both the date and the subcategories to include just a few pieces of information that we're most interested in. What we're going to do is I'm going to begin with subcategory, and I'm just going to click the little drop down arrow here. And what we want to do is we just want to head over to the filter option. Once we're within here, we're going to be able to choose what sort of payment types it is that we're interested in. And there are many, many things that you can choose from, but a lot of them you might not be interested in for the end of day report. So what we're going to instead do is we're going to select the ones that we're most interested in. So for example, you might not be interested in a bankruptcy write-off, so you can just leave that, but you may want a cash payment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on cash payment. And if you just click the little arrow to add that over to the right-hand side. Currently, this is filtered for anything on the right-hand side to be included in the report. But you can also do it the opposite way. If you wanted to exclude only a certain things, you could also mark that as excluded. For our purposes, I will make sure that is included, however. So I'm just going to go through and select a few things that I think are going to be useful for my end of day report. Once you're happy with all the options that you have selected, all you need to do is go ahead and hit OK. Now that we have done that, the very final thing that we're going to want to do is filter the date, because right now it's just going to be showing all date ranges for us, which of course is not what we're after for an end of day report. So similarly to what we just did, we are going to want to click on the date drop down, and we are going to want to choose the filter option. When it comes to the date, there are numerous ways you can choose the date. I find the best way to be able to set the date is when you use the select arrange option. So I'm just going to choose this select arrange, and then what you want to do is you want to select this select from date picker option so you can choose the date range. So for me, my beginning date, of course, is going to be today's date, and then my ending date is just going to be the same. Now that I have the beginning date and the end date as the same, which is today's date, what this means is it's going to show me values just for today's date. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit apply once I'm happy with the date, and then finally hit OK to run the report. So now that this report has refreshed, that it's showing the values just for today's date. Similar to the other two reports that I've shown you, we can see that I've only had one patient in today, and there was an FPOS payment along with an FPOS refund as well as an e-claim payment, which this is all showing accurately. Now, it is worth noting that you can move these fields into different areas, so down from columns or rows, or rotate where they are located or which order. And it is worth having a little bit of a play around with that, because you might find that a certain way reflects the values in a more readable way for your particular practice. So as an example, if I were to move the subcategory down to columns and let that load, you might find that's a little bit easier to read for you. Now, finally, once you are happy with the report, you do want to save this so you don't have to go through adding in each of these fields every time you want to run this. Now, the way you go about doing that is you just go ahead and hit save in the top right hand corner. Now, you'll remember that we did copy this from the transaction detail report, but what we want to do is we want to rename this, and that way it's actually going to save as a new report and not actually make any changes to the transaction detail report that we actually started from. So if I go ahead and set this to perhaps be called end of day report, and then you do have the option to either save to My Reports or to Organisation Reports. Typically, you would want to save it to Organisation Reports just so that all staff have access to it. If you save it to My Reports only, it does mean that only you, whilst you're logged in under your user account, is going to have access to it. So keep that in mind, and typically it will be to the Organisation Reports. Just go ahead and choose OK, and that's all saved. So finally, if we head back over to the Power Reporting menu, we will see, if we head under Organisation Reports, that we're going to see the report that I've just saved sitting under there, ready to be used. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to Ascend's Friday Forums. A few quick reminders before I let you go. If you have any ideas or suggestions that you would like to put forward that you feel would help make Ascend a better product, we are always looking for and welcome feedback. And so we do have a request a feature link directly within Ascend. Once you access this link, you will be taken to our Ascend AU AHA page, where you can add a new idea as well as comment on and vote for other people's ideas. If you would like to revisit this topic or any previous webinars, you can also do so through the Ascend Resource Centre. You can access the Resource Centre via the Help button directly from within Ascend, and it is regularly updated, so be sure to check back there to find answers to all of your questions. If you do have any other questions, you can also send them through to ascend@softwareofexcellence.com, and we'll be in touch right away. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and don't forget to tune in next time.